Okay, listen, it's hot right now out in these streets. we gotta tune in. We gotta tune in and watch what's happening right now. It's a lot that's going on. And listen, I learned this back in the days. Usually, when there's a lot of ridiculous stuff going on in the news, there's stuff going on in the world that you're supposed to be paying attention to that's not necessarily in the news, right? So we need to tap into a few things. Yeah, we need to tap into a few things. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you already subscribed, resubscribe again. Make sure you hit the notifications, hit the like button, hit the Zelle, hit the Cash App, join the paid Patreon team. Go get your detox, AmericanHealer.website. Go to Amazon, put the books in the cart. I ain't even tell y'all what books to put in there. Go put something in your cart and check out, right? And catch up, because it's a fact that you behind on books, you behind on videos, you behind on reading, you behind on your workout, you're not doing your 60 and 60, you haven't prayed 5 times today. What are you doing? Yeah, you stop it. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Mind your business. Spend time paying attention, balancing your interests so you can earn a living. You want to save money or you want to save your breath?
When you read these books like you supposed to, they're going to electrify your entire life.
We have figured out bioelectricity and completed the dream of Dr. Sabi and Robert O. Becker. Join us.
A really kind of an amazing time so far, with the hyperbaric chambers, and we basically did some nutritional IVs, and then we just decided to come in the podcast room and chop it up a little bit. So there's so much going on in the media, and then this Make America Healthy Again movement in this space. I'd love for you to share with the audience what you are most excited about right now and what they can expect to see from a public policy perspective, a legislative perspective, to show that real change is coming.
Yeah. So President Trump named me as Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Yes. Congratulations, by the way.
The biggest agency of government. It's twice the size of the Pentagon. It's got a $1.9 trillion budget. Wow. And, the irony of that is we spend more on healthcare in this country than any other country in the world per capita, 2 to 3 times what most European countries spend. And yet we have the worst health of any country in the world. We have
So here's the thing. This is, listen. Again, I had to go against all odds, right? Y'all listen, y'all know who y'all are. Y'all know who y'all are. And this, I want y'all to feel this finger right here. This finger is all in your face, okay? Y'all know who y'all are. It was rough going through the first election, the second election. I'm like, nah, I'm telling you, we got to go with Team Trump. These folks over here, this ain't the blueprint. I'm telling you, even if this don't work, we still got to try some new things. When we was doing the push-up challenge, I don't know if y'all was all participating with the push-up challenge, but when we was doing the push-up challenge, this old geezer, this senior citizen, right? he was doing push-ups and I was posting them. I don't know if he caught the wave. I don't know what it was, but people was trolling the post that I was posting with RFK doing his push-ups. And they thought that I was posting them because I was trolling. And I was like, nah, this is the wave right here. This is the wave right here. I've had friends of mine die at 30 from heart attacks. I've had friends die before 40 from heart attacks. Like I've seen death, you know what I'm saying? Violent death in the street. And I've seen friends of mine drop dead just from the culture. Period. So when I seen RFK looking like a certified OG, my man jumping down, knocking on. I was like, yo, yeah, this is what it is right here. This is what it looks like. I don't need to agree with everything he's saying, but this is what it's supposed to look like. Yeah. This is what it's supposed to look like. This ain't bodybuilder who could lift the most weight. This ain't, David Goggins running the 100 miles. Like, this ain't that. But this is functional fitness, functional health, right? This is somebody that's interested in the culture. This is somebody that's interested in the culture. And he's talking that talk. He's talking that talk that we've been talking. And I was surprised. I was even taken back by some of the people who were anti-RFK that had been pro, naturopathy, pro holistic health, pro Sabi. I'm like, oh, whoa. How is you pro Sabi and anti-RFK? You cannot be pro Sabi and anti-RFK. Because RFK is literally reading out of the Sabi playbook. He might as well start talking to you about the polar bears and the gorillas. Like he's literally reading out of the playbook. But you had a lot of folks. So now, fast forward, we got this crazy guy. His name is Hotep Jesus. And he done recruited me into his army. And I'm crashing out for the Hotep Jesus army. I'm letting you know I'm Hotepistan. I'm going, listen. He like, Inky, we have a problem in the community. It's the scholars versus the accredited. I'm like, bro, say less. You stop. How that show went? You had me at hello. Like you had me at versus the accredited. This is what we have to do. We have to look at the numbers. And it's crazy how people that are supposed to be accredited, PhDs and scholastically decorated, how do you ignore the paper? Like you're supposed to be, how do you ignore the numbers? How do you ignore the fact that we spend the most money on health? And RFK is speaking towards organized institutions and insurance and Medicaid. And when he say it, that's what he's talking about. So when RFK say we spend the most money on healthcare in America and we got the worst health as Americans, he's speaking from one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is we spend the most money on health products. Yeah, we spend the most money on health products, from proteins to detoxes to light bulbs and weird tight stuff to strap on your body and electric 6-pack machines that 6-pack you. you ain't even got to do an exercise. It's just the 6-pack or 6-pack you. Like, I'm watching the Brian Johnson over here telling you he eating vegan breakfast and lunch with a paleo dinner with laser beams, but he rubbing in steroids. Then you got my man Ancestral Brian Johnson. He telling you that eating testicles and penises is giving him big muscles, but he injecting steroids. Then you got Greg Doucette telling you he's anti-steroids and he's selling Turkestone. Greg Doucette takes steroids. And the models for his products take steroids. Like, listen. So I can't, when we got the fake holistic health guys telling you that cancers is protective mechanism for your body. He's just trying to get a few dollars. I can't be mad at him. I can only be mad at you guys because we are developing a system of education over here because that's the only way to see through this. We spend the most money on the books on organized, institutionalized health and have the worst health at the same time as we're spending the most money on dietary supplements, herbs, gadgets, treadmills, dumbbells, gym memberships, all kinds of everything. So on the books and off the books, we're spending the most money on health, and we are the unhealthiest people. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? That tells you that the people are dying for lack of knowledge. The Bible is 100% all wise, right, and exact with Hosea 4:6. Extended. The people are dying for lack of knowledge because everybody that's making a decision, and this is what's important, all jokes aside, this is what's important. Everybody that's making a purchase, whether they're buying medicine, surgeries, whether they're getting $2,000 Yaki packages or what, whatever they believe at the time that they are informed. They believe at the time that they're making the best, most informed decision that they can. The problem is nobody's investing in their education. Nobody's sitting down reading any books. Nobody's studying any anatomy. Nobody's studying any biochemistry. So they just going off of the person who's selling them the product to get educated about using the product. Yo, this is crazy. And people was like, yo, Inky, all due respect, bro, I don't think like books might not be the best way to make money. Yeah, books might not be the best way for you to make money, bro. Like you should probably do something else. Maybe you need to go Audible with the books, or you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you need to do something digital or find a way to repackage that information because books is not it. You ain't gonna make no money. And I'm like, yo, what is this thing where people are like, you're not gonna make any money? I'm like, yo, y'all know what I do? I don't present myself as a financial guru. I don't present myself as an economic whatever. Like, I'm trying to heal people. So don't critique my methods and say you're not going to make no money doing this, because that's a byproduct. I need it to survive, to feed my babies, to keep the lights on, but that's not, I'm not planning. That's not my, critique my program by saying you're not going to educate people. Now, then I beg to differ. I beg to differ. We're definitely turning out the most educated, brilliant people in the space. We're creating the most geniuses. Like, we're a genius creating machine over here. A genius creating machine over here. We're turning out geniuses, cranking them out. Because there's no other way that you can get around the fact. Because, I mean, people are working out. The gym business is exploding. All of the big gym companies, they're now expanding, building new locations. All the gym businesses are back to exploding. They were exploding before the pandemic. The pandemic slowed them down. Now they're back to exploding businesses. Personal trainers, exploding businesses. Supplement businesses, exploding businesses. Medicine, big pharma, exploding businesses. Surgeons, exploding businesses. How is it that everybody that makes a dollar off of health is getting exploding business, but nobody is getting healed except for the people that are studying?
Highest chronic disease burden on earth. And that, as you know, bleeds over into wow. And the irony of that is we spend more on healthcare in this country than any other country in the world per capita, 2 to 3 times what most European countries spend, and yet we have the worst health of any country in the world. We have the highest chronic disease burden on earth. And that, as you know, bleeds over into infectious disease, which has been really infectious disease has been the focus of most federal expenditures in terms of research. Chronic disease is the destination of most federal expenditures in terms of healthcare.
Okay, real quick. I know I just went on a tangent. I get passionate. Listen. Let me just explain this part to you while we're going through this, so nobody's left behind. Chronic disease. The connection between chronic disease and infectious disease is very simple. Very simple. At least very simple to put in words. Chronic disease, your diabetes, your obesity, right? And those are the base. Those are the bases, the cornerstones of chronic disease. Well, those things determine how well your immune system functions, how well your bone marrow specifically, right? We're going to highlight a few pieces. Your bone marrow, right, which is the origin for all of your immune cells and small pseudo cells and molecules, right? Then you have your spleen, your kidney, your HLA system, right? All of those things, your pigments, all of those things come together for the overall purpose of protecting the body, right? Your lymphatic system, right? Your lymph nodes, right? The populations in the lymph nodes. All of those things come together collectively and determine what your immune system looks like overall, right? So if we are to collectively if we are to collectively combat infectious disease, it starts right there. So that's where the connection is. Unhealthy people have poor immune systems. Poor immune system makes you many, many, many more times susceptible to infectious diseases. People with unhealthy habits, many, many, many more times susceptible to infectious disease. So it's almost like the numbers are saying, that infectious disease is a byproduct of poor biochemistry, of degenerative, anatomy, your body falling apart, right? So that's I just want, make sure everybody, we get a few people, ones and two. We got one or two newbies that might just be tuned. I just want them to be,
We have a sick care system in our country, and the etiology ultimately of all that disease is corruption. And it's the capture of these agencies by the industries they're supposed to regulate. Those industries, the pharmaceutical industry and the medical cartel, have transformed NIH, CDC, FDA, and ultimately CMS, which administers Medicaid and Medicare, into essentially sock puppets for the industry and profit centers. And they've commoditized the American public and turned us all into patients.
Yeah.
And
profitable patients.
Yeah, it's been very profitable for them. When my uncle was president, I was a 10-year-old boy, and during that era, we spent zero on chronic disease at that time in history. There really were no cure. The first treatment for chronic disease was ironically, it was the pill.
Yeah.
It was the first time you took a pill, regularly.
Well, the first treatment for chronic disease was the pill. What pill?
Well, yeah, it was the first kind of long-term treatment that you took over a prolonged period of time. And when my uncle was president, we spent zero on chronic disease in this country. Today it's probably 1.6 or 7 trillion dollars a year. It's about 90% of our healthcare budget. And we have the highest chronic disease burden of any country in the world.
When it comes to snacking, Masa is flipping the script on what real food should look like. Masa chips are crafted with grass-fed beef tallow, one of the healthiest fats.
COVID.
Hold up, man. What just happened right there? What just happened? That's crazy right there. That is certified crazy. The world is wilding. So so we got to take him with a grain of salt too. That's crazy. My man has beef potato chips. Oh my God. So he's one of them Brian John. You see, like, it's rough. It's rough because when you understand Liver King with his fraudulent self was, and the products was fake. They just busted him out. Somebody he fired from his company. They find out all them powders and none of that. All that was made of gobbledygook. None of that was what it was supposed to be. But he was making hundreds of millions of dollars with the products, right? Into the high hundreds of millions, into the billion. He was. So who was buying that stuff? Right? You gotta, so when you hear folks, it's like, yeah, we just came out with a new line of potato chips made out of beef fat and like, Photosynthesis we learned in like what, first or second grade? I just don't.
We have the highest death rate of any country in the world. So
that is astounding.
We had 16% of the COVID deaths, and we only have 4.2% of the world's population. Oh, we literally had the worst record of any.
What? Do y'all understand that? 16% of the COVID deaths with only 4% of the world's population. That means at the bare minimum, listen, because I know some of us are allergic to counting. Listen, that means at the bare minimum, we had a 400%. We had 400% more deaths than should have been predicted based on our population. 400% more. 400%. $400. Listen, I told y'all that right there. Listen, when certain things happen like that, that's an inspection. That's an inspection. How is your temple looking? How is the temple looking? Yeah, let's do it in surprise inspection on the holy temples. What are the temples looking like? Surprise inspection. Folks are not passing inspection. Folks, temples are not in order. Period. And that goes back to, value. What's the value? What are we valuing? Because what we value is what we put our time in. Folks hit me up, they like, yeah, I'm trying to, or I'm dealing with this issue or that issue. And I'm like, all right, so get these 2-3 books, get these 3 books, and then hit me up and we go through the books. And, you let me know what questions you got after you read these books. You're like, yo, it's tough. I don't really got the time. Okay. All right. So you just want to buy something. That's the problem. See, listen, I want y'all to get this. The reason why we have the worst health on earth is because America has created this idea that money is the solution. So we're looking to buy. We haven't fully digested the concept of fiat currency. That the world's currency are fiat, promissory notes. They don't actually have intrinsic value. There is no such money on earth that it even comes close to the actual value of time. Think about a moment. A moment can change your whole life. A moment can destroy your life. A moment can build your life. You can't even put a value on time because the last minute, it may not be as valuable as the next minute. The next minute may be more valuable than, and that's hypothetically, right? Because we can go, there's no value. There's nothing that has that kind of that even comes close to that kind of value. But because we're looking for the short way out, that's why the Brian Johnsons is on steroids. That's why the biggest supplement dealers on the internet are on steroids. The largest herbal salesmen are on lies. They're on verbal steroids. They're just making things up. But what it is they're pandering to the people's need to go about their business, whatever that is, chasing no value, right? And when they come against a problem, they just want to throw money at it. So they think it's different. Like, oh, I'm gonna throw some money. I'm gonna go to the hospital and get served. Oh no, I'm not going to the doctor. I'm gonna throw my money at the holistic guy. I'm gonna throw some money at Dr. Inky or Dr. whoever. Yeah, I'm gonna throw. You gotta sit down. I gotta suggest some reading to you. We gotta go over some information. I gotta build your mind. Yeah, I gotta build your mind. There's no such thing as lasting change that doesn't happen without new information. This right here, this is another level of information. This is literally the government. Yeah, don't think y'all understand what's happening. Do y'all understand that whistleblowers was getting killed and kidnapped and all kind of crazy? Now the whistleblower is running the institution. Do y'all understand what's happening? The whistleblower is running the institution. It's crazy right now. It's up. That's why we got to have these videos. I'm going, this is too much live stream for me. This is too much live stream for me, but I'm like, you know what? We got to do it. We got to do it because I don't know if there'll ever be another time period like this ever again. Because there's never been nothing like this. The whistleblower has now taken charge of the institution. The whistleblower is now running the whole institution, dropping dime on every. We may never ever get another transparent look at what's going on in the health business again. Like, this is crazy right here to get these numbers. 16% of the world's death with only 4% of the world's population.
Any country in the world. And it's a wonder that people are getting awards and recognition and kudos for managing COVID. Whatever we were doing, it was utterly wrong. And if you ask CDC, why did we die at higher rates than we died at rates that were, in some cases, like Haiti had a death rate. Haiti, if you remember at the beginning of the pandemic, we were told the poor countries of Africa are going to be devastated by this because they can't get a hold of the vaccines. Haiti is the poorest country in the hemisphere. It had a 1.3% vaccination rate, so virtually nobody got a vaccine.
Right.
They had a COVID rate of 14 deaths per million population. We had a death rate of 3,000 per million population. American blacks had a death rate of probably 3,600 per million population.
That is incredible.
Yo, that's beyond mind-blowing. That's crazy. That's beyond mind-blowing right there. And y'all know what the internet looked like. The internet looked like it was crazy. Channels was getting snatched. Content was getting snatched. It was almost like a mental civil war. Right? People's like, yo, this is it. Look, I ain't even gonna I ain't gonna call out no names. I'm just saying, you people at home, how you don't hold these personalities accountable for y'all know the people I'm talking about too. Y'all was watching these people and they was promoting this. How y'all not holding these people accountable? I'm just saying, y'all just going right along like they ain't tell y'all to. Yo, oh my God. Why is it always Haiti? It's something special about Haiti. If y'all don't know y'all history, I listen, I can't listen.
It had a 1.3% vaccination rate, so virtually nobody got a vaccine.
Right.
They had a COVID rate of 14 deaths per million population. We had a death rate of 3,000 per million population. American blacks had a death rate of probably 3,600 per million population.
That is incredible.
We had 200 times death rate of Haiti. We had 200 times death rate of Nigeria, which had a 1.4% vaccination rate. Oh, and there's other reasons for that. Those are younger populations, which were less affected by COVID deaths. They're out in the sun more, and they've got a lot of other, advantages in that situation. But
yeah.
What? 200% higher 200% higher death rate because they're out in the sun more and they have some other advantages. Woo! I'm leaving it right there where it's at.
Populations which were less affected by COVID deaths, they're out in the sun more, and they've got a lot of other, advantages in that situation. But, there's something wrong.
The impoverished, the people in poverty, the people with the highest poverty rates. The people with the highest poverty rates had the lowest death rates. The people with the most money, people with the most money and the most education. Woo! Is this thing on? The people with the most money and the most education had the highest death rates? What kind of education is that? What kind of education is that?
With our country, Africa as a whole, at about 360.
There were high morbidity death tied to deficiencies in vitamin D3.
There was a direct inverse correlation between vitamin D saturation and COVID
and COVID mortality.
So I mean, and we're the only country in the world that has, and in history of the world, where obesity is also correlated with malnutrition. So we have, because the food that we're eating is not food anymore. It's a food-like substance, and a lot of it was manufactured or created in laboratories, and that no longer it is not nutrient dense. It's nutrient anemic. And I watched this happen because I was part of the tobacco litigation back in the late 1980s. And the tobacco companies at that point were the most cash-rich companies in the world. They were the richest in terms of their cash resources. It's an immensely profitable industry. And the litigation and the advertising that began taking place at that time.
What time frame is this?
This was the late 80s, the early 90s.
Yeah.
So the tobacco industry saw that the writing was on the wall, that they were facing regulatory headwinds, that their consumers were sloughing off.
Right.
And they began to diversify. And they diversified into the food industry. So and they diversified into the food industry. And they began to diversify. And they diversified into the food industry. So by
Oh my God. Y'all better get right with higher power. That's all I can tell you. Y'all better get right with higher power. Y'all playing out here. Listen. The wealthy and the educated highest death rates. You better get right with that other thing. You better get right with that other value. That's what I'm talking about. When I'm saying mind your business, spend time paying attention, invest sweat equity. That's that other type of currency. Health is spirituality. That inspiration, that real inspiration. Yeah, like what other advantages could the impoverished have? They don't have they don't have medical system. They don't have medical, organized, not institution. They don't have institutionalized medical treatments. Poverty comes with low education. They don't have educate. They're not getting schooling and college. They're not. Yeah, they're not. So
by the mid 90s, the two biggest food companies in the world were R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris.
That is astounding.
And they
Tobacco
took
companies.
thousands of scientists that were involved, whose job it was to figure out ways to make tobacco more addictive and more attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And they switched to doing that for food. And they started developing all of these chemicals that hijack your brain and trick your body. Well, they would mimic the taste of things that are very appetizing. And they would do it with chemical compounds.
Intentionally
to attract your taste buds to make them palatable and appetizing and attractive. And your body eats those things, but so there's a strawberry flavor, but there's no nutrition in it. There's no strawberry, and your body thinks, oh, I'm eating a strawberry, I'm craving a strawberry. But you're eating it and you're not getting any of the nutrients.
And you're not releasing any GLP-1. You're not getting any satiation. You're not
right.
nutrient dense. So your body's not saying, hey, I'm full, I'm satiated, I should stop eating.
You're eating, it's chemicals, so there's no nutrients in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so your body is getting starved, and at the same time you're getting fat because you're never satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
Your body knows it's not being fed. And they started putting stuff in food to make it more addictive, like sodiums and sugars. And they also put stuff in food that deliberately tricked your brain into thinking that your stomach wasn't full. So one of the things they figured out was that your brain actually gauges the fullness of your belly by counting the number of times you chewed. So there's some part of your brain that is saying, okay, if he chewed a certain amount, he must be full. And so they started putting food softeners into the food.
Wow.
To make it so that you had to chew less. If you eat a Twinkie, you don't even have to chew it. You can inhale it.
Right. Wow. It's so insane to think that it's that sinister. And I think the sad thing, and I don't mean to derail you, is that it's one thing to contrive this whole mechanism of creating toxicity and chemicals to mimic flavorings to circumvent satiety and whatnot. But I think where it goes lost on the public is they go, well, we have an agency that stands between us and those people, so those things would never make it into the food supply.
My uncle Ted Kennedy conducted hearings in 1970 about agency capture at FDA. And at that time, and the conclusion of that hearing is that the FDA was no longer serving the public interest. Or public health. It had ceased being a public health agency. It was now an agency whose primary focus was maximizing corporate profit taking. And
all of us have the potential to become supernatural.
You see how they just try to violate us with a chakra? What?
One of I can point to 100 of those examples of agency capture, but probably the one most familiar to the American public, because there was two, big Netflix documentaries on it. One of them called Dope Sick was the opioid epidemic, where people from Sackler family that owned Purdue Pharmaceuticals captured a FDA official and persuaded him to eliminate the warnings about the addiction and to say that oxycodone on the manufacturer's insert was not addictive.
Wow.
And you could argue that as a direct result of that, 1 million young Americans die. We're losing over 100,000 young people every year from drug overdoses. And to put that in perspective, during the 20-year Vietnam War, we lost 56,000 American kids. We're losing double that number every year from opioid addiction and overdoses.
That's insane.
And that is a direct result of agency capture and agency corruption. And what we're trying to do now at the agency, which we're doing, is we brought in extraordinary leaders who are now going to make sure that we do good science, gold standard science, which was what those
100,000 a year on opioids. My little brother is in that number. When y'all heard my album, I had 2 producers on that album. One of the producers, his little brother just died. Opioids. These are not just numbers. You got to understand that. When the pandemic, I lost close friends. Close friends died. And these statistics are statistics, but these aren't just statistics. These statistics are people.
those agencies used to do. And that we're going to purge the entire agency of conflicts of interest.
You know, I'm all about optimizing performance. And lately, isn't improving building that start without amount of entrenchment, right? I mean, I've got to think that a lot of these people are not going without an atom bomb.
Yeah,
right?
well, that's where Doge came in, really, is that we offered a buyout for anybody who wanted to leave, and we made clear that people should leave if they didn't share this new mission. And we got a lot of people left the agency. And then we came back, and there's tremendous duplication in the agencies, tremendous redundancies. We had 100 comms departments. We have 40 IT departments, 40 procurement departments, and on and on. And so we're reorganizing the agency to consolidate those things. One, to eliminate the redundancy and streamline the agency. Most importantly, to redirect and recalibrate its course so that everybody there knows that every day, if you want your job, you got to wake up in the morning and be thinking, how am I going to end the chronic disease epidemic today?
Yeah.
And so everybody's going to be clear on that mission. And, we think that we're going to make a huge difference in the first year, but over 4 years, we'll be able to correct the course.
God bless you, man. And God bless that mission, because I think when you become a purpose-driven agency and not a profit, protecting agency. And I know that these government agencies are not driven for profit per se, but, a lot of these officials move from the public sector into the private sector. It's obvious once you start to peel back the layers of the onion that if you're a regulator and your responsibility is enforcement of a private industry, that you have a known job offer in where you can move from being a government official that's going to make a few $100,000 a year into private industry where you're going to make a few $1 million a year. It's hard to not point to that as a conflict of interest.
And 7 of the 8 recent FDA commissioners have immediately gone to work for industry. The CDC, the longest reigning recent CDC director, Julie Gerberding, who dramatically increased the vaccine schedule and added billions of dollars a year in revenue to Merck, went over to become the president or the vice president of Merck.
That is astounding.
And as typical, you see lower level division and branch chiefs in the agency. Also, they sort of the common course is that they work at the agency until their pensions vest, and then they move on to industry. So the last 3 or 4 years that they're at the agency, they're doing a lot of favors for industry, and they're letting a lot of things go by
because they're about to make that move.
And they want a soft landing at one of these companies. And their example then drives it infiltrates all the lower strata of the agency because they see the boss doing this and they think this is the way that it's done, and you get punished for not going along. But there's 100 other mechanisms for agency capture, and those come from appropriations through the Congress. It comes from reactions to the press. All the major institutions of our society have been captured by the industry. The press now gets the mainstream television networks. And Roger Ailes told me one time that 75% of his advertising revenues on the evening news divisions were pharmaceutical ads.
I believe that just by observation, just as a consumer.
I mean, you can watch it. You can brought to you by Pfizer.
If you eliminate big food and pharma from, I mean, just, if you watch the
bankrupt.
So it would have been
and those companies are doing that partially because the evening news is very attractive to drug companies because young people don't watch news. It's all older people, and those are their customers. They're people who are taking all this whole, arsenal, this battery of drugs, but they also do it to control content.
Yeah.
That's why you see defense contractors advertising on, Good Morning America. Nobody's going to buy, a Tomahawk missile on who's watching Good Morning America. But they advertise because they want to control the content. If you look at, Anderson Cooper or, any of these, or Lester Holt or Jake Tapper, their salaries their paycheck is being paid by the network.
Right.
But their salaries are actually coming from pharmaceutical companies, and they know that.
Right.
And they know that they can't, that they got to toe the line, and they got to say, got to frighten us all about infectious disease. They got to make us all do comply with the pharmaceutical mandates, and they're not giving us the real news. They're not asking the questions that they ought to be asking. There's no skepticism. And if you look at these news shows like 60 Minutes or even Anderson or Sanjay Gupta, 20 years ago, they were saying, there's problems with this, with vaccines or these other drugs.
Right.
They will never do that today.
That to me seems like that's the difficult part for an agency like yours, to get into the private sector and effectuate the private sector that way. Unless, of course, there was some kind of executive order that disallowed pharma from advertising directly to the consumer.
Yeah, and we're
which do you see a day where that could be a possibility?
There's a bad Supreme Court case recently that equated pharmaceutical advertising with freedom of speech and endowed it with a limited First Amendment protection. There's still things that we can do, and we're working on that. So we think that we're going to be able to do something, but I'm not going to talk more about that.
Okay.
And
Mind
the
your
issue
business.
here that people
Spend
understand,
time
because a lot of the
paying
people
attention, balancing your interests so you can earn a living. You want to save money, or you want to save your breath?
When you read these books like you supposed to, they're going to electrify your entire life.
We have figured out bioelectricity and completed the dream of Dr. Sabi and Robert O. Becker. Join us.
Or drink Gatorade or any of these 36 foods that RFK Jr. just banned, you're going to want to pay close attention. RFK is banning these 36 popular foods, and there are even more on the chopping block. I'll be sharing with you the 36 foods and the foods that are about to get banned. This is a full-scale overhaul on our entire food system. As Secretary of Health and Human Services, RFK Jr. launched a campaign called Make America Healthy Again. And one of the first targets are synthetic foods and food dyes. These are already banned in Europe. He's asking the tough question: why are these toxic chemicals still in our food supply when other countries have removed them years ago? Let's take a look at what already has been banned and what's being phased out by the end of 2026. Here are the 9 additives that are either officially banned or being phased out under Kennedy's leadership. Number 1, we have red dye number 3. Then we have citrus red number 2, orange B, red 40, yellow 5, yellow 6, blue 1, blue 2, and green 3. Now, that list probably doesn't mean much to you, but I'll show you the 36 foods you'll find those ingredients in. These synthetic dyes have been linked to everything from hyperactivity in children to potential carcinogenic effects, which is cancer-causing effects. And they're hiding in foods you see every single day. So which everyday foods that you're probably consuming contain these banned dyes? Here's a list of the most common offenders. Let's start with Red 3 and Red 40. You're going to find this in Skittles, Lucky Charms, Pop-Tarts, which are the strawberry and the cherry variety, Fruit Roll-Ups, Red Gatorade, Jell-O, and Maraschino cherries. Then we have Yellow 5 and Yellow 6, which you'll find in the following foods: Cheetos, Doritos, Kraft Mac and Cheese, Mountain Dew, Fruit Loops, Twinkies, and instant ramen seasoning. Then we have Blue 1 and Blue 2, which you'll find.
Hold up, he just violated ramen noodles. Yo, listen, I know people whose whole house is on this list. I know people whose whole house, their whole kitchen, their whole dietary regimen is literally on the banned foods list.
Find in the following foods: Gatorade Frost, Blue M&Ms, Kool-Aid, Ice Pops, and Ring Pops. Then we have Green 3, which you'll find in mint gum, lime jello, green popsicles, frosted cookies, and cupcakes. Then we have Citrus Red number 2, which you'll find in Florida oranges, the dyed peel. Then we have Orange B, which you'll find in hot dog casings. Now, these aren't just obscure products. These are found in kids' lunchboxes, gas station shelves, and school cafeterias. That's why RFK is saying enough is enough. Now, let's talk about what's going to be banned next. These ingredients are currently under review or marked for future bans. We have titanium dioxide, which you're going to find in skim milk, chewing gum, especially from Trident, frosted donuts, coffee creamers, and store-bought salad dressings. Then we have
Okay, listen, y'all pretending. It's fine. Y'all pretend like that's not going to hurt. That's going to hurt. Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks right now is in trouble. Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks right now is in trouble. And all of you people at home who be frequenting those businesses, your frosty donuts, your sweet, delicious creamers, woo, your frosted donuts and your coffee creamers, woo.
Which you're going to find in skim milk, chewing gum, especially from Trident, frosted donuts, coffee creamers, and store-bought salad dressings. Then we have brominated vegetable oil, BVO, on the chopping block, found in Mountain Dew, Fanta Citrus, older Gatorade formulas, and Citrus Fresca. Then we have potassium.
What? 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 What is that? What is that even doing in there? Brominated vegetable oil is in the soda? What? What? Yo, wait, what is that even doing in there? Now, hold on. Let's just relax for a second. The food dyes are in there to make the fake food look more appealing, right? The sugars and the preservatives, the sugars are in there to make it taste more appealing. The preservatives are in there so it can have a longer shelf life. Like, I'm not saying, you know, like we're not going to agree with toxic chemicals, but I'm saying we need to like there needs to be some rhyme or what is vegetable oil? Like what does vegetable oil do within the soda? Listen, you could say you don't believe in God if you want, but only the devil, listen to me, only the devil sodas have vegetable oil in it? This is crazy.
Older Gatorade formulas and citrus fresca. Then we have potassium bromate found in store-bought breads and buns, frozen pizza dough, and commercial bagels. Next, we have propylene paraben found in packaged tortillas, low-fat snack cakes, cake frostings, and shelf-stable desserts. Then we have glyphosate, which is...
Yo, I ain't gonna lie. Snack cakes is like a cuss word to me now. Like snack cakes is wild. Like if you even offer me a snack cake, it might just be, I might just have a reaction. Like, yo, we might be a squabble. It might be a scrap. Like we might have to, it might get crazy. Like snack cakes is wild. Snack cakes is wild. I don't even have any comment. Like, snack cakes is just crazy.
Is also called Roundup, found on wheat products, oats, soy, and corn. Even a lot of coffee contains Roundup. RFK wants it banned due to cancer risk. Next, we have high fructose corn syrup. Now, before I list those foods, I talk a lot about high fructose corn syrup in chapter 4 of my brand new book, Metabolic Freedom, where I discuss processed foods. High fructose corn syrup is mitochondrial poison. Your mitochondria are these energy batteries within your cells that help you produce energy, which helps you have energy, and they help you burn fat. As a matter of fact, so many diseases are linked to poor mitochondrial health. I could list them all for you. I'll list a few right now: ADD, ADHD, cancer, heart disease, diabetes. We also have autoimmune conditions, thyroid conditions. It's linked to poor mitochondrial health. When you consume high fructose corn syrup, it poisons your mitochondria, and it leads to fatty liver disease. There's an epidemic of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, not only in adults, but unfortunately also in children. 90% of high fructose corn syrup is processed by your liver. And when you overload it with high fructose corn syrup, this very important fat burning detoxification organ, the liver, can't burn fat, can't detoxify, leaving you feeling inflamed, causing weight gain and weight loss resistance, and a buildup of toxins. So here's where you're going to find high fructose corn syrup. Soda.
Yo, the devil be busy. Yo, the devil be busy. I don't care what you say. They came with the advertisement for fake sugar, the artificial sweetener. Man, you can't make this stuff up.
Sauce, ketchup, candy bars, and snack cakes.
Now listen, before we leave high fructose, listen. The larger impact of high fructose, right? And it goes along with the glyphosate. So that's where it gets wicked. Because this gentleman here is doing a good job at elaborating very quickly on individual things. But here's what you got to think about. We don't eat individual foods like that, right? That's number one. We eat things together, right? So somebody that's having some snack cakes, they're probably going to get a soda, right? They're going to get a soda to wash it down, right? Like that's, or like with the glyphosate that's in a lot of the wheat breads, right? So you're going to have the wheat, you're going to have a sandwich, and then you're going to, right? So a lot of these things, we're digesting them simultaneously, right? And then there's a turnaround time, right? Because we're not carnivores, regardless to what people think. We have a much longer digestive system, right? So even if we were to consume these things individually, because of the turnaround time from the time we put something in the mouth to the time it comes out the other end, there's still going to be chemistry taking place inside our body where all these things are present together. And there's a particularly nasty combination of glyphosate and fructose. Because glyphosate inhibits the plants from producing aromatic amino acids. High fructose corn syrup inhibits you from metabolizing the aromatic amino acids. Yo, that's wicked. That's literally like, you listen, that only makes sense. That only makes sense if God is light. That only makes sense if God is light. That, for me, to each his own. We listen, we studying together, we researching together, come up with your own conclusions. I'm just telling you, that's insane. So not only are you going to stop the plants from producing aromatic amino acids, you're going to feed me a substance that stops me from metabolizing aromatic amino acids. That's wild. That's crazy. That's wow. That's like that's I don't even know what to say. That's wow. That's over the top.
Then we have my favorite category to talk about, and I hope this definitely gets banned, and that's going to be seed oils, also called vegetable oils. In chapter 4 of Metabolic Freedom, I talk about seed oils and how they are also mitochondrial poison. They create something called oxidative stress. I want you to think about this. If you bit into an apple and you left your apple on your kitchen counter for hours, you came back and looked at that apple, what are you going to see? The part where you bit is going to turn brown. You probably see this when avocados go bad, bananas go bad. This is oxidative stress. When you consume vegetable oils, seed oils, this is happening. This browning effect is happening to all 70 trillion of your cells. There's a study I published in Metabolic Freedom from Dr. Martin Grudfeld that analyzed French fries that were fried in seed oils. And it showed essentially that one French fry consumed that was cooked in seed oils is equivalent to one tobacco cigarette smoked when they looked at the aldehydes that are produced. Aldehydes are cancer causing. And it's not only that, there's a process called lipid membrane reorganization, meaning when you consume seed oils, within hours, those seed oils embed into your cells. It happens in hours. And those fats, these bad fats, stay in your cells for years. The half-life of these seed oils are 680 days, meaning
Bro, this is creepy. It's getting creepy. But listen, these are all of the changes that RFK is making. These are all of the changes that RFK is making. So listen, I want y'all to think about a few things. When you hear these people like Roland, what's his name? The Chunky. When you hear these people that's against these changes, they're against RFK. You have to understand that that means they're pro these items. Yeah, so you have to look at these people like some old zombie apocalypse. Like, hold on. So you saying you like the glyphosate in your sandwich? You want to wash it down with whatever that BRVO, with that vegetable oil in your soda? You that, like, what are we doing right now? What are we doing right now? Are you trading time for money? Are you willing to trade time for money? Like, not trade time for money in terms of working for money. Like, no, are you willing to take years off of your life, off of your children's lives, to shuck and jive? Like what is going on right now? That's how I'm looking at folks. I'm like, so what are you saying about RFK again? So do you realize what, like, do you understand what's going on out here, or you just, because it absolutely completely makes sense that the French fries are now as toxic as the cigarettes, seeing as the cigarette companies took over the French fry business. Hello, I'm gonna need y'all to just wake up in the back there. We need y'all to wake up in the back there. This is why we had to listen to RFK break it down and say, oh, wait a minute. So the tobacco companies took over the food companies. And so now the food companies are mimicked and treated with the same chemicals as the tobacco. Oh. Listen, I told y'all, we may never get this level of transparency again. We may never get this level of transparency again. So the way I'm looking at it is you got two choices. You might as well go back to smoking cigarettes, right? Because there are a lot of people that used to smoke cigarettes, but they don't smoke cigarettes because they're like, nah, cigarettes will kill you. But they eat the fast food fries, right? You might as well have your cigarettes. Or you might want to give up the fries along with the cigarettes. The Bible says if you're lukewarm, I'm going to have to spit you out. So I'm just saying, hot or cold, figure it out. You know, you go on ahead and get your cigarettes. You know what I'm saying? Pop your box. You know how you pop the cigarette box. Pop your box while you wait for your order of fries to get done with your large order, with your large soda, you know.
When you stopped eating them, 2 years later, half of them will remain in your body, creating chronic inflammation. I'll give you a list of these 8 seed oils, and then I'll give you a list of the foods commonly found with these seed oils. So here's the list. Write these down. Hopefully they'll be banned, but right now you got to identify them and not consume them. We have canola oil, corn oil, and cottonseed oil. Then we have sunflower oil, soybean oil, and safflower oil. Then we have rice bran oil and grapeseed oil. Dr. Kate Shanahan, author of Deep Nutrition and Dark Calories, calls these the hateful 8. You're going to find them in packaged foods. They're actually in 80% of our food supply. This is nuts, but the American Heart Association, they're actually in 80% of our food supply. 8. You're going to find them in packaged foods. They're actually in 80% of our food supply. This is nuts, but in packaged foods. They're actually in 80% of our food supply. This is nuts, but the American Heart Association puts their stamp of approval on these seed oils. You're going to find American Heart Association puts their stamp of approval on these seed oils. You're going to find them in chips, crackers, salad dressings, and of course, anything fried in restaurants will contain them. So hopefully they get banned. But in the meantime, what I do when I go to restaurants is I tell the server I'm allergic to seed oils. I actually use my seed oil allergy card where it says, "Dear chef, I have food allergies to the following oils." And it lists those oils I just stated, the grapeseed, the canola, the soybean. Can you use the following alternatives that are safe? That's going to be avocado oil, olive oil, butter, ghee, coconut oil. Even lard and duck fat are safer options. And you can get this seed oil allergy card for free by going to seedoilcard.com or clicking the link in the notes.
Who's coming in the driveway? Myron! What? What are you doing? What you doing?
What you talking about? What am I doing?
You reading them nasty books again, right, Myron?
Everybody reading those nasty books, man. You scared the hell out of me. What you talking about, man? Well, I ain't did that in about 2 weeks.
You called yesterday 2 weeks. What you reading? What you reading?
You scared the goddamn book, man. Dr. Inky. I went on Amazon and got 3 Dr. Inky books because I'm reading about melatonin and biochemistry.
What is, Myron, that's not even first of all, it's not melatonin and whatever it is that you just said. It's melanin and biochemistry. You can't even pronounce the word, so how you reading? How you reading, Myron?
I'm not looking at the pictures. I got the books right here. I'm looking at the pictures. You know, ain't nothing nasty about this. So what are you talking about? I got all the books right here. What are you talking about?
Myron, you don't even know how to read. Every time we get mail, you bring it to me. You think I don't know that?
I got hooked on Phoenix. Now, what you talking about? I was hooked on Phoenix, so I know how to read.
As of when? Because first of all, hooked on phonics, I believe it's for kids. There's no such thing as hooked on Phoenix. And if I recall, you're the same person that thought reindeer was pronounced reinder, and you're the same person that thought pigeon was pronounced piggion. So it makes sense that you went to hooked on Phoenix.
Man, such a dumbass.
No,
you always trying to say somebody can't read. I know exactly what I'm talking about, man. I'm reading the books. I got the book. I got the goddamn receipt right here. For the books. What you talking about?
Well, you need to return them for somebody who know how to read them. And I still don't. It's probably all type of stuff in the inside of the books, Myron. That's how sneaky you are. Give me the books. Give me the books, Myron.
Hell no.
Give me the
I
books,
got these on
Myron.
Amazon. You
Give
can get
me
these
the
on
books,
Amazon.
Myron.
I'm not giving you none. I got these books on Amazon. I'm not giving you the books. Ain't that no.
Yo, well, bye. Bye.
I've been in this game. Yeah, animals to this shit. And